Hi, sorry I was a little late. I was having some trouble logging on just now.
Oh, it's all good.
Great. Hey,
Great.
I'm Jim. What's your name? Beth?
Beth, yeah.
Beth, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Um, and I loved End Times, so
Oh,
thank
thank you.
you for making it.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Is it cool if I jump right in with my questions?
Yeah, go, let's do it.
All right. So first off, can you explain a little bit about what inspired you to write and direct End Times?
Sure. You know, I grew up in Pittsburgh, which is sort of zombie town, USA, thanks to George Romero's Night of the Living Dead being filmed there as well as Dawn of the Dead. Um, so it's part of the zeitgeist growing up, and as you get into horror filmmaking like I did, there's a point where you're kind of like, I should just take a stab at this because I think the zombie film genre is sort of a blank template to talk about human character and motivation and really like just tell a kind of a simple, almost like a play type story with a really neat background kind of thing. And I think people kind of tend to understand the rules of it, so you get to discard worrying about that and you get to just play within it. So it's fun to do.
I agree. The zombie genre of monsters is my favorite. So,
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, I saw that you're from Pittsburgh, and I was gonna actually bring up the zombie capital of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We used to in high school. We used to take little pilgrimage trips to the Minerva Mall, where they filmed Dawn of the Dead and like hang out there and stuff, just like teenage hooligans that they bother with. And then I actually got to go to the premiere in 1990 of Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead remake with Tony Todd. They did a premiere in Pittsburgh for it, and they had everyone serving appetizers dressed as zombies and stuff. It was really cool.
that is cool. Um, so has George Romero's work influenced your career as a whole, or is it just kind of bits and pieces?
Oh, I think it absolutely has. I think it's influenced almost everybody's career as a whole in the last 50 some years. I don't know how you escape the impact he had, especially with Night of the Living Dead. Um, but also, I'm just a big fan of some of his lesser known stuff. I mean, obviously, Creep Show is a huge deal for me because I grew up loving comics and being told comics were junk and everything. So it kind of dovetails in. But also some of his lesser known stuff like Night Riders. I love Night Riders because it's really just about him not going Hollywood, making that decision to stay independent when those options were given him. Um, and then, my buddy John that I went to high school with and was in the Dark Half when they filmed that in Pittsburgh. He kept coming back and filming in Pittsburgh, and he really created this idea for me that you don't, even though I do live in LA, like you didn't have to be in LA to make a movie. You could make a movie in Pittsburgh because he'd done it a few times. And so that's where I made my first two films, was still in Pittsburgh. So yeah, huge. As far as culturally, I mean, I just don't think you can escape the cultural impact of Night of the Living Dead, which I think was taken a little more seriously by critics and by kind of cultural historians than a lot of its contemporary horror films. I think there was a moment where people looked at that movie and saw it was about more than just monsters. It was kind of about us, and I think it changed the perception of the horror genre in general. But I think it also changed making a horror movie after that. You had to take that into account.
Right. And with End Times, it felt very more about the humans and less about the monsters, which is kind of what you were just saying. So kind of going off of that, since that was something that you took away from Romero and all of his work, was there anything that you wanted to avoid from his work, bringing in, like,
Mm.
avoid bringing it into End Times?
Yeah, I mean, I really wasn't sure. We sort of make some references to it, but I wasn't sure how to justify the the requisite cannibalism that comes with most zombie genre type films. I I feel like we were able to outline kind of an idea of what would turn a human into a zombie, what kind of physical processes they would go through as the body broke down and the organs stopped working right, and the nervous system started not functioning correctly, as a way to justify the gait and the color and everything that you associate with, when you see zombies. Um, their need to consume human flesh and brain and everything like that. It just didn't quite. I mean, I think it's a great trope, and I think it works in so many other films. It was just something I wasn't sure, like, what's their thing. But the thing about that is that gives zombies their motivation, and the thing you realize when you make a zombie film is that zombies aren't all that interesting as characters, like as character. Like they're very binary creatures. They just are. They're there as a set piece to be dangerous. You don't get a lot of uh, character and story arc out of a zombie unless you go through the very slow stages of turning into one, which is something we tried to do. So that's the thing I really was trying to. One of the goals of doing the film was to take that requisite idea of that character that's going over to the other side, which normally happens kind of as a quick moment in most zombie films, and to stretch that out and talk about that and sort of have someone be able to explain and articulate what that's like, what it's like to lose your humanity and to have something else taking over you. So that was a big motivation, was to not that no one had done that, but to do that maybe a little more, spend a little more time and energy on that than I'd seen in most previous zombie films.
Right, right. Because usually it's like almost like a snap of your finger and they turn or
Yeah, yeah.
get left behind
And
and
everyone's got to decide, do we kill him? Do we not kill him?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We thought we'd just go ahead and make an entire act of the film just about that. So that's what we did.
Um, how did you settle on End Times as the title?
That came from the Asylum. Actually, we had a different title we produced the film under, and when they picked up the film, the contract we signed had the original title and also End Times listed as alternate title, and that's how we found out. Well, it was probably going to be called End Times. So there we go. This has happened with my last two films. I did another film after this movie called The Beast Inside, which is now going to be released under the title The Possession of Anne. So I'm not sure why I'm even giving my films titles anymore. I'm just going to call them The Next Jim Towns Project and let the distributor, because they know what sells, and I don't. I'm not even making fun of it. They have a clear understanding of how a title is going to reach a certain type of an audience and make that film as successful as it can be. So that's what they do. I mean, that's their job. So we put our trust in them and hope it works out. So yeah, End Times kind of conjures a little bit more of a religious theme than anything that's contained in the film. Obviously, the film doesn't really cleave to anything like that. And so I don't know. I hope it doesn't create an expectation in an audience's mind that isn't going to be fulfilled. But it is what it is. It's out there now.
Right, right. What was your title for it?
It was previously called State of Desolation.
Oh, interesting.
And that's it. That's what it was produced under. Yeah, for quite a few years. So now it's funny. I have to just constantly mentally check myself to not call it. So because no one's going to know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
Jamie and Craig were fantastic in the movie.
Yes.
What went into casting them and what made them perfect for the roles?
Jamie and I had known each other for a while, and Jamie was the one who approached me, kind of saying, "Let's finally do this film together." And I've got a backer to some degree. I think we can raise some money. Like, what kind of thing would you want to do? To which I think I responded, because it was a couple of years ago now. Like, what kind of thing would you like to do? And we discussed it. And then what really happened is I ended up figuring out that the location that is in a large part of the first half of the film, with all the abandoned buildings and stuff, it was near me, and I ended up securing permission to do that, and that kind of led, like, well, if we have this kind of location, what kind of movie are we going to make? And it was an easy jump to say, like, we're making something post-apocalyptic, because look at what we got here. That location, by the way, now is like all $1.3 million townhouses. I just went and visited them and did an open house and stuff. And it's funny just wandering around those streets, just thinking like how much time we spent there and what we filmed. Um, Craig had reached out to me just not long before we started thinking about this movie. Um, Kind of, he was looking to do some different stuff. He'd already been in a Tarantino movie or two in smaller roles, but I think he was looking to do something where, he really could bite into it. Excuse me, I'm just getting over something. But I liked, I wanted it to be a love story, but not a romantic love story. And so I liked there was a little bit just enough of an age difference there that you could see it as a father daughter type of relationship between he and Jamie's character. So yeah, and I'll never forget about the second day of filming. We were driving to set, and he was in my car actually, and he turned to me, he's like, "I have more lines today than I've ever had in all my movies combined." But he did so good. I mean, he doesn't, he's much more of a lovey-dovey hippie nice guy than he plays in the film, but it's not too far of a stretch from the way he really is to this kind of character he plays and stuff like that. He's just a very capable, very laconic but cool dude, and we just put him in there and stuff. And there's just there, I as soon as they started, running lines and doing scenes together, I was sure that he and Jamie were the right picks for the film. They're great. They carry the movie. They're great.
I agree.
Hmm.
Um, so what's next for you? Are you currently working on something? Is something going to premiere soon?
Yeah, the Possession of Anne, which is the film I did with, it stars Sadie Katz she was in House of That with me. She's also has a part in this film. And obviously she's done a ton of other horror stuff. She's quite a beloved Scream Queen actress. It stars her, she produced it as well, and it stars Vernon Wells from The Road Warrior and Commando. It's about a woman who's possessed and nobody believes her, so she has to lock herself up in this cheap motel and exercise herself. And the only help she has comes from this disgraced priest, which Vernon plays. Great little film. I got to reunite with my cinematographer Chad Courtney from House of Bad from 10 some years before and stuff. And he's grown as an artist, and I've grown as an artist. It was really fun, but very much the opposite of this film. And this film's such a wide, broad landscape, and most of that film takes place inside one hotel room. It's a very different type of story. That's coming out, like I said, I think at least in the United States later this year, and possibly worldwide. I just shot a film called Killer X, which is an action drama. I shot it myself. It's the first feature film I've actually been the cinematographer on, so that was fun. Just trying to challenge myself, and it came out like not bad. So I was happy to do it. It makes me really appreciate Ray Carwell, who shot the End Times here, and of course Chad and all the other talented guys I've used to shoot films. And then so that'll become, Killer X will be coming out in early 2024, and then in 2024 I will be shooting a movie hopefully called Paradise Fallen down in St. Thomas in the Caribbean. We just went down and had meetings with the governor and senators down there, and the film office down there, and they're really excited. They have not shot, speaking of zombies, they have not shot a full feature film in the Virgin Islands since Weekend at Bernie's 2 in 1993. So they're excited to do a whole movie there, and I'm excited too, because I'm actually a huge fan of Weekend at Bernie's 2, because they took this new comedy and they turned it into a zombie film. It was great. So it'll be fun to be walking in their footsteps as well a little bit. So that's shooting in 2024, possibly coming out in 2025. So yeah, I've got some stuff coming out.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to add about End Times?
No, I'm just excited that it's coming out. It's on VOD almost everywhere you could want to rent a VOD film from, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be dropping on streaming in not too long after that. So we'll have to keep everyone posted on where it's going to be available.
All right, awesome.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, I love the movie, so
thank you.
I'll look out for your next stuff.
Fantastic. Thanks, Beth. I appreciate it.